Where did your gaming journey start?
My gaming journey started probably when I was 5 or 6, just on an NES that I had at my grandparents' house. This wasn't on an NES, but the one I just remember as a kid playing a lot on a Super NES is Donkey Kong Country. I played that with my brothers for months and months. Games were a lot harder back then, so got a lot of gameplay out of just dying a lot. But from there, I think the first console I got of my own was an N64. Played a lot of Ocarina of Time, and actually I was into wrestling, like WWF at the time. So I remember playing No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000. All of those games, I'd have friends come over and we'd do a lot of
Okay.
couch co-op. I mean, we'd play those for hours. Then after that, I remember getting a PS2, and one of my kind of favorite games at the time. I mean, it lasted for a while. Was actually Final Fantasy X, and it was really the first full length RPG of any Western or Japanese style. And I just really got into that game. I played the remasters. I played Final Fantasy X2. Got an Xbox for one of my birthdays and was really into Halo. We'd have LAN parties. Moved on to Xbox 360. I remember probably the mainstays there were Gears of War, 1 or 2, but the Horde mode, having a bunch of TVs in our college dorm, and then from there I went mainly to PC gaming. I haven't actually I skipped Xbox One and PS4, but I do have a Switch that I'll play with my kids. But right now it's mainly PC gaming.
And what are your favorite genres?
I actually like survival game, like online survival games. So I don't know if you're familiar with Ark Survival Evolved or
Yeah,
Conan Exiles.
I am.
Yeah, I'll play those games a lot, just because a few of my friends are into those, and it's just a good way to. At this point, I actually have 4 kids, so I don't go out as much with my friends. So that's a way to just kind of catch up. We're chatting and then just playing games. So those are the ones I probably spend the most time in.
So you prefer the session-based gameplay of those games?
Yeah, those are the ones I'm into the most.
Was this session-based gameplay a goal in FUNTIME? Because it's very session-based, I would say.
Um, it was it wasn't really a goal per se. Funtime was my first and only game project I've ever made, and it was just to teach myself how to program. It started with a concept that I thought that I could do. I guess it wasn't, the games that I like to play, those are hundreds to thousands of people teams, so that was kind of outside of the scope of what I thought I could do.
So you are not a fan of the genre per se when you started
Oh,
developing.
I am a fan of the genre. I guess just now I don't play it as much. So I mean, it's pretty obviously there has some inspiration from Geometry Wars, and so I remember playing Project Gotham Racing on Xbox. So it's a racing game, but in the garage where you store your cars in the game, there was an arcade in the corner, and it was basically a 3-minute demo of Geometry Wars, and I played that basically 3-minute demo for more than I played the entire Project Gotham Racing. So I definitely have an affinity for that genre. I like just trying to get a higher and higher score.
Which game made by another author would you like to have been your creation?
I mean, I guess for me, I guess Ark Survival Evolved. I mean, that would be awesome. I put like 1,000 hours into that game, so
And what's the worst video gaming trend?
I'm not a fan of microtransactions or DLC. I honestly don't like DLC at all.
What's your reason for not liking it?
I mean, I guess one of the things is the long tail of a game with DLC and microtransactions and keeping people in seems cool at face value, if you really like that game. But I think it prevents future innovation, I guess, because that whole development studio, or at least a portion of that development studio, is working on content for old games
Yeah, not
rather
new
than working
games.
on
Yeah, I
content for
see.
a new game. For me, I just really like to see where games can go rather than rehashing the same stuff.
My initial experience with FunTime was that it stands as a chill experience in a genre filled with stress inducers. Was that the initial goal, and how did you manage to achieve it?
The initial goal, believe it or not, was actually was just a game that my kids and I could play together. I originally started with a multiplayer concept where the ship can color the background tiles. I have 4 kids. They're in varying ages, but some of them were just learning colors at the time. So started with the idea of an Xbox controller. You have the 4 face buttons with the different colors. And the concept was it would be just a free-for-all with 4 players where you're just coloring the map. And I do have like a prototype that kind of works for that, but it ended up just being a little bit outside of the scope of what I could do maybe for a first game. So I took some of that, the coloring and the music that I had made for it. And as far as kind of a chill experience, I wanted to get into like the flow state where it's difficult, but once you understand the mechanics, it's not overwhelmingly difficult.
What came first, arcade or challenge mode?
Arcade came first. I was just basically making the enemies, dropping them in and putting them in different combinations and seeing what was fun to play against. I didn't really have it was very freeform. And then the challenge mode was always going to be the bulk of the game. The reason I put challenge mode first was mainly because it introduces the mechanics slowly. Friends of mine weren't very avid twin stick shooter players. So I found with having them play, it made a lot more sense to have the challenge mode first because it slowly introduced the mechanics. And I actually think most people that play twin stick shooters more regularly enjoy the arcade mode better. So my intention was to introduce mechanics, but I'm not really sure if that works for everybody.
And what's your favorite mechanic from FUNTIME?
I mean, me personally, I like the wrecking ball. I like how it combines with the coloring. So you can use it as a weapon. When you hit enemies with the end of the wrecking ball, it increases your multiplier, but it can also damage you, so you have to balance what color you are. So I think with the wrecking ball, it just adds a lot of things to balance that I think make it fun to play.
And what other mechanics there were in the game that we cannot see now that were scrapped?
I had actual levels where basically like a blue starting node and a blue ending node would like pop up, and there would just be like a timer, like it's a bomb or something that would explode if you don't connect the nodes via the color of the tiles. It all worked and it was kind of fun, but it just didn't seem to fit the game, so I just scrapped it.
And what's the other mechanic that should have been a part of the game and it's not?
I think that actually having multiple ships in the arcade mode, and I still actually may come back and add those in later updates. I think having multiple ships would have been fun.
If the roles were reversed and you had to ask yourself one question, what would it be and how would you answer it?
What would I ask myself?
And how would you answer it?
I guess around game development, one insight is there was definitely a letdown when I released the game. And I would ask myself why. Why did you have a letdown when you released the game? I guess I had there's this kind of like when you're developing something creative and you don't really know how it's going to go, how people are going to like it, how it's like exciting, that not knowing and just being able to work on something. And then when it releases and it's just kind of, nothing's really different. I've just kind of like, man, I just need to relax a little bit. I had been working full-time job. I come home, I have a family, and then as many hours as I can, I try to work on the game. And it just kind of burned me out. And then to what end? Why didn't I take, an extra month and not have to work so hard on it?
But from my experience, even if you took the extra month, you would have still been burned out because you would have made more stuff for the game, and it would have been
that's something that definitely
Yeah.
happened. So I did work with a publisher who helped get it to consoles because I did everything on PC and they just ported it. Things took a lot longer than I was accustomed to. And so whenever there was like, oh, this is going to take a little bit longer, I'd be like, oh, I could probably do this in the game then.
Just one more
just
mode,
took longer. Yeah.
You can say some final words to all the viewers now. Anything you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't checked out the game, definitely check it out. It is my first game. I'd love the feedback. On Steam, there's a feedback button in it. And I've tried to take all of that to heart and either fixing it or taking it forward in how I develop future games. If you like this style of game, check it out. You might like it.